Thank you for joining us, everyone, as we prepare for Creatives Chat, episode 36, featuring Sarey Savy. Join us as we talk about who knows what. Our show shall begin now. Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by wearehistorically.com, Conscious Human Apparel, and
Learn to play jazz piano like a pro, by a pro, with Jazz Piano Pro Essentials at jazzpianopro.com.
hello and welcome to another episode of Creatives Chat. Hi, I'm Rusty.
I'm Peter.
And Peter, tell our viewers who we have on our show today.
Ooh, Rusty, we have an individual. He's been blowing up across the seas in various countries, in the Cambodian American singer, songwriter, producer from White Center, Washington. His recent single, Company, recently just hit and broke the top 30 hits in top dance music in Radio Norba over in Italy. We have Mr. Sarey Savy himself.
Oh, this is going to be an exciting conversation, folks. Get your popcorn out and meet Sarey.
Oh, Sarey Savy, what's good? How are you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Creatives Chat. You know, I got introduced to you on the All Game podcast, and I just love the story, dived into the music, and I'm just really excited to explore everything in terms of the music, the inspirations, the history, the background, the future. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about Sarey's sound?
I struggle with this question all the time because I don't know, which is kind of odd because when you listen to my music, it's kind of cohesive and it's kind of, it's kind of just kind of like that. That's it. You know what I mean? But I feel like it's very dynamic. It's very vibrant. And it's also very personal. And the reason why I usually go with those three things is because I feel like a lot of the times when I'm writing my lyrics, I try not to think too much about it. I try for it to be like a casual conversation between myself and the listener. And so a lot of the times my music will be written in kind of a first person perspective because I want to really own in on this, like, I'm there with you, I'm talking to you, you know what I mean? And this is kind of like I don't know, I guess we're just sitting down and talking about kind of what I've been going through or how I can help you, that kind of deal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it definitely brings energy. I think that's one thing that is just the moment you hear it. I mean, obviously with like the more upbeat like dance tunes, we'll dive into that, but like the energy, but really everything always has such a sound. And I always attest, the skill of the artist or singer, musician is, can they really make the heart sing into whatever medium they're using? And that's the cool thing, is when you can hear the emotion, like the pain and the memories and that type of history in your voice. That's dope. So where did you I mean, honestly, it's kudos to you, but like,
thank you.
I know for myself, I know personally, I know a little bit of your background, but for our listeners, like, when did your journey begin? Because the one thing that highlights to me is I see a 12 years old come out, and it's like, when 12 years old making that pivot in direction for your life, like, how did you come about into this life of music?
So the thing is that I never really wanted to be an artist to start. I actually didn't want to do music because everybody in my family does music. Everybody. So I didn't want to. A lot of the times when I hear other stories about other musicians, they kind of follow in their parents' footsteps or something. And for me, I wanted to do video game designing. I didn't want to do music.
What?
So I kind of did, when I was little, I was obsessed with the PS1. And so I used to play games all the time. And then when my mom took away my PS1, because I started doing a little dancing. And that's when I really got my first taste of performing. My sister and my aunt put together this dance group, if you will, between my sister, my cousin, and myself. And we used to go around. This was like when I was like, I don't know, 6, 7 years old. We used to go around to different pageants and casinos and perform and get paid for it. And that was pretty cool. And then my older sister, she was our choreographer, and she got pregnant. So we stopped. And then when I was 9, I moved schools and I was enrolled in choir for the first time. And my choir director came up to me a couple weeks after the school year just started and told me, you have something special. And I didn't know what that really meant because I never thought of myself as a singer at that time. And, you know, he's just like, if you keep practicing, I really think you could go far. And so I didn't think much of it, but I went home anyway and started singing to the radio a lot. I'm not professionally taught. And so I used to like listen to Radio Disney all the time. And that was the one that they played nothing but bops. So I listened to Radio Disney. And then when I moved back to my old school, when I was 12, that's when my sister's boyfriend, who used to work at an independent label, he introduced me to a lot of different DAWs, which is an abbreviation for Digital Audio Workstation. And he introduced me to a lot of different programs that helps you do like music production or like recording vocals, things like that. And that is the day where I decided, okay, I want to do this for real. I became obsessed with it. So it was, you know, it's been a long time coming now. I started from using like one of those like $5 desktop mics because that's all we could afford at the time to like, you know, now having all of this great equipment, being able to work from home, it's been such a blessing.
Wow. The come up story.
Yeah.
Well, that's something that's really fascinating though, is you think about like getting introduced to music, especially, you know, just like a choir class at 9.
Yeah.
Like that must have been a very, I mean, obviously it was an influential experience now that you reflect on it, but even just getting taught sound and music and harmony, that's such an important lesson that we don't get really at all anymore in school, do we? Like how many educational structures are set up where they could actually afford the arts nowadays with how budget cuts and all that stuff is operating?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So in terms of that reflection back, what was it really like when you look back now, getting told that, you know, like, hey, like you could actually do this?
I guess, you know, I feel like this has become a part of my brand now, but I'm very open about how insecure I am. I'm very open about that because I think being an artist is not just about the music. I think it's also about really being able to connect with your audience. And for me, something that I connect with when it comes to my fans is kind of like my physical image, how I feel about my physicality, how I feel about my mental health. And so I'm very, very open with that. And so like, I mean, I still struggle with that from time to time, even as an adult. But because of some of the new friends that I've met over the past couple of years since I've turned 21, I think that I believe in myself now more than I ever have, because it just feels like from 12 up until I was 21, it was just a lot of, you know, it's just kind of like this roller coaster where it's like, okay, I feel like I can do this. And then the next day I'll be like, okay, I actually don't know if I can do this anymore. And it's kind of been like that all throughout my whole life, you know, because a lot of my music and the kind of, you know, who I am kind of intersects a lot with, it just really intersects with a lot of my insecurities. And so like my insecurity really stops me from accomplishing my full potential sometimes. And that's what I get told a lot. And that's something that I'm starting to recognize. But I'm trying to kind of live in the spirit of gratitude when I wake up every morning, because I feel like I've done so much in just the past 2 years that a lot of artists, they don't really get to that point. So, you know, a lot of people don't, I mean, I've been doing this for 12 years now. So, you know, a lot of people have kind of fallen along the way. so that I've met, and it's just really, it's heartbreaking, you know, because it's like you kind of take a look at like where you are now, and it's good that you've accomplished all these things, but you kind of take a look at all of the people you've met along the way, and some of those connections that are no longer, you know, they no longer serve a positive purpose for you no more, or they are kind of, you know, they've stopped doing music. So it's sad in that sense.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just being willing to have the self-love to really pursue your passion, I find is always a really rare quality, because it requires courage, you know, to really, again, like what you're talking about in terms of making connection with fans, in terms of really building your brand. It's all about transparency and vulnerability. And I find that not a lot of people have I don't really want to say like, it's not really like a strength. I see it more as like a detachment to really be able to do things and not have like a shame or a self-judgment. So it's really, you know, it's really powerful just to like hear you talk about your own stuff and like going through your own coming of age, and, you know, and just dealing with the adversity and chaos, that it's always like a trial by fire. But I always find, and this is one of the reasons why, you know, I always like to vibe with different creatives, is because it's always so awesome and reassuring and, you know, inspiring to see people that have been through the fires, you know, of suffering, of chaos, of pain, and still keep their heart, still keep that compassion. And I think that's one of the things is, you know, you're one of the most like straightforward people and we haven't had a lot of I guess you'd say like interactions before, but like you're one of the most like straightforward, like communicative people I've experienced in quite some time. So it's always really nice to have someone that's like, I mean, just straightforward and just like no BS. It's just like, hey, I'm going to keep it real.
Thank you.
You know, so I appreciate the efficiency, because it's like, hey, time is our most important commodity. And when you've been through such a grind and you finally come into your own and you have this freedom, you're like, hey, let's go. Like, let's do it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I try to be, you know, I really try.
Well, I guess you could say, where's that kind of willingness to kind of take things out of the comfort zone and to push yourself? You know, where does that drive come from? You know, you're talking about people dropping off and falling off into their passions and arts. You know, like, where do you have that? I don't want to say like cutthroat mentality, because sometimes you do have to cut dead weight off, obviously. But where do you come up with that fire for life?
Well, you know, for me, it's the kind of scary thought of like, and this is for a lot of artists too, I feel like it's not just me, but there is no plan B for me. And my biggest fear is feeling like I can't do this and going back to work for some corporate company doing a 9-to-5. Because I feel like that's not my purpose. I feel like there's a higher power that's telling me to continue to be consistent. And there's a lot of people I've met along the way who, some of those people who I haven't really done music with in a while, but they're still in my life, and they keep telling me, you know, your time is coming, you know, we feel it. And so it's really the support of like my husband, my family, my friends. Even when I doubt myself, you know, I feel like they kind of compensate for a lot of those things. And they help push me to do a lot of different things. And also, you know, it's just the fact that I'm kind of hitting this like mid-20s kind of like epiphany where I'm like, I am not, like, I have to get this done and I have to do it now. And my mentality kind of, you know, for the past couple of years is like, there's no time for me to be afraid. Like, as much as I am scared to do a lot of things, I have to kind of just like be this kind of person where I'm like, it's not a fake it till you make it kind of thing. It's more like, I need to just go out there and do it. You know, and not think about like what other people think, or not think about how I might mess up. My biggest fear is always messing up in front of people because I'm such a perfectionist. But I'm learning that it's okay to be open about the fact that I am not perfect. But that took me a long time. But, you know, it's kind of just like this mentality where it's like, I want to do this by this age. I want to get this done by this time. And that's kind of the fire that keeps me going, because I'm just like, I don't want to, I feel like the older that I get, I feel like the less time that I have. That's the mentality that I go with. And for a lot of people, that might be kind of bad, because a lot of people don't like to put an age cap on their dreams. But for me, I am professional at procrastinating. So for me, it's like, if I put that pressure on myself, like 99.9% of the time, I'm going to meet that goal. So I always try to put that pressure on myself where I feel like, okay, everyone's counting on me, so I have to do this. I have no choice. As much as I don't want to do it, I'm going to do it.
That's funny. Well, I guess do you think that it takes that kind of no plan B type of mindset for you to fully commit yourself to like your aspirations and your dreams in that sense?
I think that's subjective, because I feel like there are some people who would say, you can go to school, get a degree, that'll be your, you can fall back on your degree. And that was my mentality for a long time. When I graduated high school and I got accepted to go to Evergreen State, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Evergreen State. I'm going to do something in sociology, because if this doesn't work out, I would like to be a marriage counselor, because my parents separated when I was younger, and I felt like family is the heart of everything. So I really wanted to be a part of the journey for other people to keep families together. Because I saw how much of an impact it had on me, and how much it affected my mental health and my spirituality. So that was kind of what I wanted to do. But, there was a lot of different complications that happened along the way. So I ended up not going to college. And from there on, I kind of had to hustle, and I bumped into a lot of different people, Emmanuel and King being two of them. And meeting all of these creative people who are kind of like, have the same kind of mentality that I do, where it's like, there's no other option. Like, this is it, So it's like, either we go hard or we go home. And so, and it's just crazy to me, because, like the whole plan B thing, I'm still not opposed to it. I think that if people want to do that, I feel like they should do that, but I feel like, for me personally, and again, this is subjective, and to some people, this is actually toxic. But for me, it's kind of like, if I don't have a degree, if I don't have any kind of like vocational training or anything like that, then for me, that just gives me another reason to work 10 times harder than everybody else around me. And so I feel like if I was to, if I were to get a degree, I feel like, in a sense, I'd be setting myself up for failure. Because I'm just like, well, if I'm getting a degree, then it's like, I'm saying, okay, so this might not work out, and I'm kind of doubting myself. So that's kind of where my mind goes.
And time commitment and all that other stuff, then you're second guessing things. Is this the right thing for me? Like, So, I mean, but you're listening to your heart. And I think that's something that's like, it's incredibly, obviously important, but it's so undervalued with how we treat people and what we deem as successful and a meaningful life. And we've lost touch of what it really means to, live out our truth. And I think that's one of the things is, when you're a genuine person, you're a sincere person, you can just tell that with how you communicate and how you express yourself. And when you're not doing that for your own life, and you live in that paradox, it's just naturally you're just butting heads with yourself. And I find that that's just such a plight of modern day, like, society in the trap.
No, it is.
Well, in terms of like the musical development, the evolution, do you find that no plan B commitment, do you see that kind of lit the fire underneath like the musical evolution to really start like collaborating and just pushing different like venues of how you're going to express yourself in different mediums and all that?
Yeah, it definitely did, 110%. And for me, I think that for an artist, you always have to be adaptable and flexible. And for me, I've noticed with a lot of artists I've worked with in the past, that's where they kind of lack. And so a lot of those artists who are unwilling to compromise usually are the ones who from my own personal experience, usually don't succeed. Growth is such a huge thing that I emphasize for myself. And for me, growth is part of that is putting myself in situations where I feel very uncomfortable. And I don't like certain people, but I try to keep it professional and I try to get something done. And so a lot of the times I feel like that helps me. That helps me grow as not just an artist, but a person. And so a lot of the collaborations and everything, you know, I never saw myself doing house music. That's not what I wanted to do. And so when I got dragged into doing house music, I was like, this is exactly the opposite of what I want to do. But, you know, it's one of those things where I didn't say no because I'm just like, you know, if this isn't working, then I have to go somewhere else. And so a lot of that's what I'm saying is that a lot of artists, they don't really have that kind of mentality. They're really
willingness.
Yeah, willingness. You know, a lot of artists, they're stubborn. You know, they want to do what they want to do. And I understand that. I get that. But I think that in the music industry, it's definitely more of a kind of thing where you kind of have to prove yourself. And for me, doing house music was never a part of the plan, but I did it because if that's where the success is and that's where I'm going to go to get what I want, and then I can transfer and convert that into what my idea of success is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, isn't it funny though how life turns out that way? It's those things that we're like, we have that resistance and tension for, that when we overcome that initial doubt, fear, whatever it is that we're using to kind of like push it away, it usually ends up turning out pretty cool. And that's the cool thing about I'm looking at games and I'm just thinking like, yo, that was a huge song. And I mean, it still is pretty popular.
Yeah, no, it is. And you know, the song came out back in December 2019, and the fact that people still love it is crazy to me. Because at first, you know, I kind of told the label, you know, and I told Chris, I'm just like, I feel like, I'm being honest with myself, this isn't really a special record to me. But because I wrote it so quick. And I'm just like, it's just whatever. And it's just crazy to me because it just gave me a different perspective on songwriting. How songs that I've taken so much time can have very little success, but a song that I wrote in 2 hours is the biggest song I've ever put out, ever. So it gave me a different perspective, and it taught me to really nurture and treat every single song like it was my own child. Because Games wasn't, you know, I loved the record when I was doing it, and over time it became this kind of thing where, you know, I kept hearing it all the time. And I love, you know, I really appreciate everyone who loves it and still listens to it. But, you know, my ears are definitely tired of hearing Games. But I do have to say, if it wasn't for Games, I wouldn't have a lot of the opportunities that I have now. You know, a lot of, a couple months after Games came out, there were major labels who contacted me, and there were a lot of different producers who contacted me. So if it wasn't for that song, I wouldn't be playing on the radio in Italy. There wouldn't be people and, you know, publishing companies and record labels in Italy who know about me. So I'm grateful for that, you know, in that context.
Well, I mean, it's just that loving reminder of just the leap of faith when you just say yes and don't put these roadblocks. Well, it's self-sabotage. And I find that it's a common reoccurrence in our society, is that we always just get caught up in the game of just shooting ourselves in the feet, you know. And it's funny though, because I find that is one of the many superpowers that gratitude gives you. And I find it great that, you know, you're a practitioner yourself, because I find that it does give you these superpowers of just different type of participation in life is probably the way I'd like to say it, is that you give, when you're reminded about your mortality, you know, when you're reminded about the past that you've lived and who you are now and where you've been, it's something that just gives you a whatever, you know, just to handle whatever life like throws your way. So it's just amazing to see, man. It's cool.
Thank you.
Well, I know you talk about, you know, like the journey of, you know, kind of going through your own valley of the shadows of death and kind of coming out the other side. I know this personally from my own experience with my family and this, like, how did your separation in dealing with that, how did that operate in your family? And like, what was the impact on, I know you said the marriage counselor influence is really powerful, because I know how much I would have loved a few different conversations when I was going through different stuff with my family, but how has it really impacted you into the open person you are today?
I think that mental health is very stigmatized in a lot of older generation Cambodian people. And being open about your personal issues is commonly looked down upon. And for me, I always felt like that was wrong. I always felt like it's not right for people to condemn other people for being open about the things that they're going through. I think that that is a sign for help. It's a very subtle sign sometimes. And I feel like a lot of the times people don't take that seriously. I started to realize the trauma that I went through, and it started to affect my day-to-day life. And then because of that, it translated over to my music. And so a lot of the times, like when people talk to me or, tell me that my music is relatable, a lot of the times people think it's about a relationship, like with an ex or something. But a lot of the times my music is actually about my relationship with my family. So it's just, yeah. So
that's a whole twist on everything I've heard from you.
Yeah.
Like I gotta re-listen to stuff right now.
You gotta re-listen to stuff. Yeah. And so when I did that interview a while ago, with the All Game podcast, I said, I think that people need to listen for Easter eggs in my music, because a lot of the times my music is talking about somebody, but the context in which I speak is not about a lover. It's not about a romantic lover. And company is one of probably the bigger examples of that. And because company for me is such a personal song, because I feel like it will always be relevant in my life. And I don't think that I've ever been so open with my songwriting up until I wrote company. And it was so hard for me, because I usually don't choke up on my own music, but company for me was just the one thing, because every time I listen to it, or when people tell me how much they love it, I just think about like the impact that it has on the listener, only because of the fact that it's written in such a gender neutral perspective, but like it has a very universal language that can apply to everybody, and not just romantic relationships. So I just think about that a lot.
Oh yeah, it's it's kind of funny because it's really one of the most intense. It's a very deep song, but very upbeat.
Yeah, I know. It's very conflicting, right? Because when I heard the beat, I was like, this is not going to be no happy dance song. Like, this is not it. When I told the producer that I was going to write a sad song, he was kind of taken off guard, because he's like, this is house music. We're supposed to make people dance. But I'm like, people can dance and cry at the same time. Okay. So that is my thing. Okay. So that was that dance and cry song. That's company for me.
That's so great. And I think that always just applies the deeper meaning to art in and of itself, and just how much it can impact people in a different way. Again, like we can both look at the same painting and it can hit our hearts differently. And that's the connection that's always really important. I mean, for me, one of the things that I connected with was, the song Emotionally. And I, in terms of just past pains and just that type of message of reflection and just moving forward, that really struck a chord with me of just, things and issues that I've dealt with, in people in my life. So it's, again, like when you're able to really express your heart and it comes through the music and it can affect people, like, how does that feel as an artist?
Oh, it's indescribable. There's no amount of awards, there's no amount of streams, no amount of any type of superficial accolade that could really compare to somebody DMing me and being like, this song got me through this. I feel like, because I feel like you can't put a price tag on feelings. And a lot of, I actually just the other day, a fan of mine who is new and didn't really know about me up until his partner told him about me, He was just like, I really love this and I connect with this. And, I was listening to your song Company, and it just made me feel so like emotional, because I think about like my own life, and I think about the relationships I have with the people in my life, and the lyrics. I just feel like if I were to write a song about the relationship I have with the people in my life, I feel like everything you said in Company is exactly what I would write down. And so like things like that, I feel like make me feel like I'm doing something right, because for me, it's never really been about the money. And for me, it's always been about the passion and the drive. And, for me, the money comes later. I'll worry about the money later. I think the number one priority I always try to put over my head is just creating universal music that can really touch every single culture, every single person from all walks of life, and is just like a simple conversation about, what I see in someone else's life, or opening my life and my world to somebody else, hoping that there's somebody else out there who can relate with me and reflect, because I do a lot of reflection outside of music. Yeah. So a lot of my music for me is reflection. And for the listener, it's kind of like we're both reflecting and, kind of going through the motions together.
Whew. Reflection, self-reflection. I mean, reflection's a hot word for me, because I think reflection is the number one tool. Well, I guess I should say number two, because I consider gratitude the number one tool. But, self-reflection is, an incredibly powerful resource to heal, to grow, to transform, to change. And like, in terms of stumbling into your self-reflection, like, how has that helped you? Because obviously you resonated with the heal. Like, how has that resonated? Like, how has that really like transformed your life in terms of just being courageous enough to look within and loving enough to look within?
It's given me a different, I think just growing up, my upbringing, it gives me a different lens, because I feel like a lot of the times, as a child, you're always being told what to do, how to think, how to act, who to be. And a lot of the times it's the adults in your life who are kind of influencing that and kind of making those decisions for you. At least in my experience, it is. Yeah. And for me, I've always been a rebel. I've always been a rebel against that idea. And for me, self-reflection is thinking about the energy that I feel from people in my life, the people that I decide to keep in my life, and what kind of purpose they serve for me. And so it's given me a lot of, like, it's made me an independent thinker.
Well, that's an important thing to recognize, though, is, we always just think of things in what we can see with the five senses and experience the five senses, the physical aspect, but we don't recognize the major component that is literally everything in life, that we're all energy and everything is energy. And when you have that type of persecution and judgment and assumption or rigid perspective, it literally seeps and creates so much tension energetically. And I've found that a lot more people, then they recognize it or not, are really sensitive to energy. And when you're finally out of that environment, it's exactly like the patterns. It's just like, wait, that wheel's not spinning anymore.
Yeah.
And it can give you that it can give you that clarity to really kind of evaluate, or like when you do notice certain things react and respond, it'll be like, okay, well, that wasn't them. That's clearly me. And it takes another testament of courage to your nature, in that sense of, to be able to evaluate when people are being really mean to you and nasty, to be able to evaluate where does their truth end and the imagination begin, where they run off with it. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, hey, that's a good point. I could be more observant in that, but okay, that's ridiculous. Yeah, okay, they're gone. It takes a different kind of, I don't even know what the best word is for it, but of just, again, I think maybe willingness is the one that comes up the most, to really just hear people and experience life. And it's cool that you do, practice your own form of meditation, as I see it, your self-reflection, like in the beginning and at night, because that's something that I feel like people just don't even recognize. When you can level up like that, like that's a game changer, because again, when you wake up, it's a new thing to work on. It's a new thing to level up to. It's a new thing to continue the practice.
Exactly.
And when you do that, and when you do it much, I guess you'd say when you do it a lot and you do it consistently enough, it just becomes that natural second habit. It's a second nature. It's just who you are. And
right.
It's been really cool just to hear like your own journey of healing. And I guess you would say is like, what would be your words of encouragement for those that are undergoing, you know, different life issues, whether it be families falling apart, you know, you having to reveal things about yourself to others, being transparent and open as your genuine self? Like, what are your words of inspiration for the people?
You know, there's this quote that I came across that I really religiously live by, is be who you needed when you were younger.
Ooh.
And that one just hits home for me, because for everyone out there who, you know, is experiencing some sort of disconnection on any kind of level with anybody in your life that you care about, whether it's family or friends or anything like that, I just want you to remember that the biggest thing is that you take care of yourself. And for me, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, because if you don't have your own back, nobody else will, you know? And so that's kind of where it comes into play, is if you want people to believe in you, you have to believe in yourself. You know what I mean? And another thing is this also, you know, big stigma that we also have, not just around mental health, but like this kind of like thing where we not condemn, but we frown upon people who ask for help. I think that that's such a bad thing to do. I think we need to be more open about our needs and wants together. You know, and because the truth of the matter is that there's always something that we can work on. And sometimes it just takes having that outside person coming in. And that all plays into be who you needed when you were younger. You know, the help that you didn't get, the love that you didn't get, all of those things, you have to, it's really hard, but you do have to fight for that for yourself. You really do. And that's kind of how you get connected. Life will, I always have this feeling or this belief that the universe only throws you what you can handle. And, you know, when you can get over that hurdle, then you will start to see that a lot of things come into fruition. And another thing is like really manifesting. You know, huge. And it wasn't until I met Emmanuel and King where I started to really give myself positive affirmations. I never believed in shit like that. I thought that all of that shit was bullshit. But I'm like, because every time I heard King with his spiritual stuff, I'm just like, oh, King, here we go. You know, but it's actually very helpful. So
this thing these people have been doing for thousands of years, it's mind-blowing.
So for those of you who are skeptics, I was there. For those of you who used to blow that friend off, or you're just like, oh my God, shut up. I was one of you. I'm telling you to come to the other side, okay? Because manifestation is amazing. Because we don't put a timeline on manifestation. We're just telling yourself it's going to happen. I'm going to make it happen. The universe is going to be, you know, as one with me. And I think whatever you say out there, man, the universe is listening. So,
you know, you are it. It is you.
It is you. So really, but it all in all, to keep it short and sweet, be who you needed when you were younger.
No, I mean, dude, that's funny. It's I wanted to say like, no, that's like the most perfect thing that needs to be stated right now, because that's literally the dramas and wounds of the heart that we carry with us into the present. You know, when you talk about patterns and people repeating things, or when, again, like people bringing up the past, like, oh, why are you bringing up the past? It's like, if I'm using it as an example, that's just an example. But the thing is, the pattern in the past that's getting repeated is you. You know, when you look at people that are living in that action of just constantly repeating those same mistakes or past impressions of pain from their younger self, and they're not questioning it, they're reliving it, that moment, that pain over and over and over and over and over again. And it's so cool just to hear the self-love that you've given yourself in this process of, of healing. Because again, it's something that's, as you just said, it's the most important stuff. Do it. You got to do it, folks, because in truth, we're already doing these things, whether you believe in manifestation or not, you're doing it, because why your life is so miserable, why ever you feel everything's against you, all this other stuff and the chaos, it keeps happening because you're wanting it to happen. When you keep speaking out for chaos, when you keep investing your energy into the chaos and destruction, you just become that master of it. And we have so many people that don't recognize their own power, but when you grab the reins of your own life, of like, you said it perfectly in a way where it was like, you have the right, an opportunity, an option to say no. Like, it's that for everything. Like, you don't have to give your reaction to someone. You don't have to give your energy to someone. You don't have to give a certain thought form your attention. You don't have to give certain emotions your attention. It's being that objective and different, like, observer that takes you to that next level, but you only get there through questioning things, people.
And having an art form helps. Being an artist helps. So
expressing it, letting it out.
Expressing it. If you're like me, where you're basically like an Asian Taylor Swift and you just write about people, it's like, that's kind of how I express it. Thank goodness I have music. And I feel so relieved that I decided to stick with this career. It's challenging, but I think that it's very much rewarding when you get to that part. So that's kind of where I am, is channeling all of this into all of the new music and the things that I have out right now.
Well, speaking of some of that stuff that's out right now, and King and Emmanuel, I know you guys just dropped a new exclusive, expensive. Congratulations, dropping that.
Thank you.
And in terms of new projects and stuff, like, what do you got in the works? What do you got going on? Like, anything? What do you want to pitch? What you got?
I have a lot going on. The same label that I worked with when I released Games and this other song called All My Love, and also Company. Right now we're kind of in the beginning stages. We're talking about doing more music together. It's always such a pleasure to work with them. It's crazy because we do everything online too. They're in Italy, I'm here. So it's crazy to think that music has came this far because of technology.
Right.
And I do have a new single that's coming out on February 22nd. So I'm super excited about that. Usually I release music on Fridays, but I decided to do Monday because I feel like everyone kind of dreads Mondays. So I wanted to give my fans something to look forward to on Monday.
I like that.
Be excited that you have to work the next day so that you could just, get to my song.
And it's 222. That's a dope number.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. The angel numbers, right? So I have that coming out, and I'll be revealing the title and the cover art next week. So I'm super excited about that.
Oh, cool.
I've also been in touch with another label and another publishing company in Italy as well. So I don't know what it is, but I'm coming in Italy and I'm taking over. So get ready for it. As far as the song on the 22nd, I'm super excited about that too. These songs were completely written, produced, mixed by me. So I'm super excited.
Dope.
Yeah, I'm super excited because I feel like I'm so ready for my fans to kind of see the evolution, because I feel like they know that when I work with the labels in Italy, that it's not produced by me, it's just written and sung. But I really want to show my capabilities. I feel like with hip hop and rap music, historically, queer people have just not really been welcomed. And so really, for me, it's bigger than just music. For me, it's breaking down social barriers in the music industry, where it's like, hey, yes, I am gay, and I was born and raised in the hood, just like all you other straight rappers out there. And yes, I do engineer, and I'm here, and I'm queer. So, it's for me, it's kind of that. It's I try really hard not to talk about my sexuality, because I really just want it to be about the music, because I feel like the music encompasses universal languages, universal in terms of like, you know, wherever you come from, no matter what you look like. But I think that if we're getting more specific, I think that it's really important, because I think emphasizing these things is kind of like this kind of idea of how representation matters. And for me, being this like Asian gay dude who wants to do hip hop and rap and R&B, it's kind of like, well, that's kind of unheard of. So it's like, for me, it's really hard to break down those walls, because I think that a lot of people, even in the industry, they're not used to that. When I first started, a lot of people told me that doing R&B was not going to happen. You know, they're just like, you're this gay dude, like it's not going to work. Like, how are you going to appeal to masculine men, straight men? And I'm like, what if I don't have to? You know what I mean? Like, what, I mean, because I always thought about that, because I'm like, why are you putting me in this box? Like, what if I don't have to? What if I just appeal to like women? You know, like what if I appeal to, you know, maybe men who are in touch with their feminine side, you know? So it's one of those things, and I'm trying to get people to open that up. And that was kind of like digging deeper to Expensive. Expensive wasn't just a record about, you know, flaunting confidence. For us, it was much deeper than that, because I mean, these are two Black men and one Asian queer dude. You know what I mean? When we were talking about the song, we're just like, we're doing something I feel like has never been done. And, you know, like we have these straight guys, these straight Black, beautiful men, oh my God, who are doing this, you know, a song with this like gay ass guy, you know, it's just like, and it's a rap song. And it's like, this gay guy can rap? What? Like, you know what I mean? So it's just one of those things. And Expensive was kind of that thing where it's like, we're breaking this down, you know, so that's kind of that. And I have some other songs recorded, and I just finished recording this other song that I'm planning on putting out later this year. It's one of my favorites. And the reason why is because it touches on alcoholism. Ooh. And, nice, you know, it is, you know, alcohol has ruined a lot of relationships.
It's one of the biggest overlooked problems that is not deemed a problem, apparently, for a lot of people.
And for the title, you know, I made it very apparent that it's about alcohol. But I guess I can see why some people would take it as, you know, probably a drug addiction too. But it's more so my experience with people who have some sort of addiction that is intercepting people that love them. It's one of those things where it's like, call me when you're ready to talk to me, you know, and really talk to me clearly in a sober mind, and you're ready to think about where we can move forward. So right now, you know, it's just a lot of music that's being recorded. There's definitely a couple releases that are coming out. I've collaborated with some producers in the Netherlands. I collaborated with some producers in Mexico, in Germany. So they're kind of all over the place. My fans know that my fan base is international, so I don't really work with a lot of people from Seattle, but I'm hoping that this year we can change that. Because, you know, because I'm just like, this international love is great. And the fact that games blew up internationally, great. But it's like, where is the love from where I'm from? You know, like I need to go and I need to put myself out there. I feel like I haven't been doing that. So that's not on Seattle, that's on me. So
yeah, I love that though. It's like blowing up Italy, all of a sudden Netherlands, all these, like all these European countries and shit.
Yeah, but it's like that's Seattle great. Crickets. Like who Sarey Savy, who is that, like a type of food? I don't know. So
that's funny.
All right. Hello.
Hey, welcome back.
Sarey, I have thoroughly enjoyed this heart-to-heart conversation. It really has been profoundly impactful, I have to tell you, on so many levels. You know, you're talking about life production here, not just music production.
Yeah.
I love that.
A couple of points I want to make. One was how you said that the universe doesn't give you anything you can't handle, and I made a little comment here because I honestly believe the universe prepares you to handle everything it throws at you.
Yeah.
And so whenever I'm in a situation where I do feel overwhelmed, I have to remind myself of that. Like, the universe wouldn't set me up to fail.
Yeah.
I would, but the universe wouldn't.
Yeah.
That, again, profound truth, profound. Taking a daily inventory, that's also powerful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I love that.
Right. I do that, I would say probably 3 or 4 times a week, where I sit back and I reflect. Sometimes I just, I don't have anything to reflect, like the day just went smooth, but every once in a while when I feel like a disturbance in the force, okay, like, did I cause any resentments, or am I harboring any resentments? Like, why, otherwise I don't have a restful sleep. I don't have a peaceful sleep. Right. I have a disturbed sleep, and then I wake up disturbed, and that stuff doesn't go away, just by ignoring it.
We're so willing to cut people out, we forget the humanity and compassion aspect of just being. It's crazy. And
sometimes it's just that plain simple, just the humanity of it. Because Peter said it best, like, energetically you can sense it. When you walk into a room and someone's feeling angry or upset or just depressed, like, you don't need words to describe. I mean, you just go, oh wow, okay, something's up. And so the question that I use, that I find to be a neutral question without making that person wrong, is there something going on I should know about? Is there something that you want to talk about? And then just letting them be, right? Just being non-judgmental, let them say whatever it is they have to say. Because sometimes this is one of those 4 agreements where I take things personally. Like, oh, it must have been me. I must have said something that upset them. Like, there's something I caused. Like, I must have caused, or, I'm not the source of their problems. I might be a symptom, but, and so that's what I've learned, is that when I come across that way, is just to go, maybe this person just needs an ear. They just need to express themselves. They just need to get whatever it is bottled up out. And so I love the sensitivity issue that you said, like, be sensitive,
because that's where that's how we humanize each other, like, it's just really important to, and it's just so sad, because it seems like as we progressed, like, it became less of a common thing. Because for me, I guess maybe it's just because of who I am. But I always felt like that was almost like common sense. Like,
that's an outlier's perspective.
Well, I would say common sense ain't so common.
Well, that's the thing that's right there. Like, that's the uniqueness of the light. That's why I always say real recognizes real, because it's turned into a rarity, because you've had so many people hand over their free will. Yeah.
So I'm just like, but I know that for a lot of people, common sense can be a really touchy 2 words, but for me, it's kind of one of those things where, I mean, before, when I was younger, it was more of a common thing, to be honest. It was more common for people to be compassionate and to just care about people. And it seems like with the power of social media and with how far technology has gotten, it's kind of like now we have like a lot of different types of information out there that might not necessarily be true, that paints people in a different light. Or we have, a lot of people who just have access to the internet who are very gullible, and so they believe everything that they read, and it kind of takes on for them. And so that's kind of why it's really important to kind of shut that shit down and just become an independent thinker for one night, and just think for yourself.
Well, that right there, though, it comes back to a few points ago, where it's, to get people to ask the why.
Yeah.
You only ask why when your current understanding isn't all there is.
Yeah.
Like, you don't ask why if you're not content, if you're content with your understanding of things. So if you're assuming if you know everyone and their pain and their perspective and all this other stuff, like, you're completely missing that opportunity. And I think the reason why technology I think the reason why we've really seen things split and get even so lost, even just compared to like a decade ago of how people used to act, is just because we've turned into this society and civilization that has progressed technologically faster than we've progressed morally. And I know morals is like a subjective kind of term, but I mean, I see it in terms of just like the basic aspects where it's just like, does each being actually have like the Constitution, like unalienable, like God-given, creator-given, whatever universe-given rights that you have just for being alive? You know, or do we have a society that supports people and uplifts people and doesn't destroy people? Because the same thing that I hear when you're saying things like, you know, most people just turn it and pivot it to like, oh, what did you do to me, or what did you do wrong, like invalidating your truth. It's the same thing we do to our own like impoverished communities. It's the same thing we do to our own homeless communities. It's the same thing we do to everyone on all aspects of society. I think now with social media, it's just brought all of it to the forefront, and it's just condensed it to really show people the sample pools of how batshit crazy most people are, in the sense of just they lack that accountability. You know, they're just, I don't want to say like they're immature as like an attack or like a point of judgment, but it's like they just lack the conscious development and understanding of themselves. So it's like, but I see us going down a very dangerous road if we don't correct the wrongs in terms of how we treat each other and how we treat ourselves.
Right.
Like ASAP, shit's gonna go south real quick if we don't figure shit out. Or because I don't think we're not gonna get the the to. Ultimately, I see like that's how things ultimately will play out. Is like we just won't make it. Like,
I you know, it's no, you're totally spot on about that, and I you know, it's kind of scary because it feels like it's already happening. You know, I mean, Twitter is such a bad place now. I try, if I had it my way, I told Emmanuel and King, you know, my husband, I said, if I had it my way, I wouldn't promote my music on social media. I would stay away from social media.
Right.
If I could, but I can't avoid it. I mean, I could post and just, you know, kind of put my phone away. That's usually what I do now. But like I said, I'm not exempt from it. Even I sometimes feel like I want to see what's going on, you know, like I want to see what the tea is today, you know, like, but I try really hard to stray away from that because I feel like that's not who I feel like I've always been. I feel like I've always been just kind of not associated with that kind of thing where it's like, you know, we're kind of looking forward to, you know, who am I going to cancel today? You know, like who am I?
It's created toxic paths of least resistance.
Yeah. So
easy outlets.
So it's always easier to just do one thing rather than doing something that provides a long-term solution for a lot of people. And so, you know, so the all of the stuff that we're seeing right now, I feel like are very short-term, temporary kind of band-aids that we put on.
Yeah, well, and I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier of like, you know, the universe giving you what you need, the universe providing you things you can actually get through. It's not going to toss anything at you. It's going to break you. I see this as how I do have a lot of hope. I see this as where humanity can go. I see this as kind of like our growing pains. And I think that's something that people always kind of get lost in and caught up in the wave or of the movement or whatever is happening in the now, is that they lose track of just like, hey, how has your life progressed? When have you experienced profound growth? It's come through a little bit of turbulence, you know. It stemmed from some conflict. So I do see this as being that kind of humbling reminder of everyone being like, whoa, we're getting way too into this. Let's put a T on this. So like, hopefully, you know, this will be the time when people really dig deep. And, you know, most importantly, again, I just want to like thank you for your openness on just really everything that we've talked about in terms of everything, your insights and your perspective, because it's definitely needed nowadays. We need more people like yourself, open and courageous enough to speak their truth and dance their dance. So keep it up, yo.
Thank you so much. I'm terrified. I'm terrified of people knowing my personal beliefs, but I think that's just kind of, you know, filtering out all the bad energy, you know, and who really fucks with it. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm a horrible person, but maybe after this interview, maybe I am a horrible person because of the way that I view certain things. But that's fine with me, you know, because I know that I'm not. So that's ultimately what it comes down to, you know. So I love you guys.
I love you. And
Me too, man.
yeah, and let me finish on this note, because there's two points I want to make. First of all, you talked about you don't want to fake it till you make it. Now, and you mentioned that early on in the interview, and I wrote that down because that seems to be a popular mentality, is fake it till you make it. But let me tell you, from experience, it only produces a professional faker. You don't ever make it. You just be a better faker. Now, if you were to shift that and act as if, there's some days where I don't feel like editing, I don't feel like participating in life, whatever, but I act as if I do. And that's, I could act as if I'm happy. Doesn't mean I'm faking I'm happy. I'm acting as if I'm happy. And then pretty soon I'm happy without even realizing I've transcended whatever it was instead of, and so the faking it doesn't get you anywhere, and it won't. From personal experience, I know that. So faking it till you make it doesn't work. People, first of all, will know you're a faker, and they're not going to want to do any business with you.
Seriously.
Yeah.
All right. And the second thing I want to end with, and this is how we'll close our show, is my imperfections define me.
Yeah.
How I handle my imperfections define my character.
That's good. I like that. I might have to take that.
So I'm going to end with cherish every moment and make every moment count. Thank you for joining us, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a happy always.
Oh, yeah. Roll the outro.
That concludes this episode of Creatives Chat. Thank you for watching. Join us every Thursday at 3:33 p.m. Pacific Daily Time as creative minds get together and chat about who knows what. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks again to our sponsors for making this show possible. Thank you, LoyaltyGutterServices.com and WeAreHistorically.com. Conscious Human Apparel.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I'll teach you everything you need to know about playing jazz piano like a pro with my 12-week online video course and downloadable guidebook, Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com.
Thanks for joining us.